We're already in week 3 of the LCS, and today we'll be looking at the leaderboards and hearing from some of the teams looking to bounce back after a rough start to the split. You're getting a look at CLG and Evil Geniuses focusing up before their match in Game 1 of the day. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we hear from some doctors and reinvest into the LCS stock market until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champions Select. If we turn towards the standings, though, we see Cloud9 reigns supreme, but has some surprising contenders nipping at their heels.
Yeah, I mean, Cloud9 looks so good right now. Their average game time is, I think, 5 minutes faster than the league. They are dominating, and I think it's safe to say that unless Team Liquid gets to above their summer split level when Broxa eventually rejoins this roster, finally approved, that I think Cloud9 is the favorites.
And those expectations, I think, might be too high for Team Liquid to actually come out of nowhere with such little practice with Broxa and deliver on an already established Cloud9 that has been playing, that has been practiced.
Yeah, they have some tough competition. I mean, coming into this weekend, they're going to have to prove themselves if they want to remain on top. They have both Dignitas and Fly, two teams that have really stepped up into these roles as competitors in the spring split.
I think Dignitas is a really exciting team because I didn't think anybody thought they won the offseason, that this team was just put with parts that...
for the Huni reportedly $2.3 million.
With parts that nobody wanted to take. They put this roster together, but I think the combination of the veterans that really still want to play and really see themselves being a part of the LCS, combined with these rookie players, has made for a surprisingly resilient team.
I think the same can be extended to FlyQuest as well. Take a look at the top 3 teams in the league right now, and when you look at the offseason, they're 3 of the most criticized teams for the moves that they made, and yet here they are sporting pretty sweet records. Of course, only 2 weeks in, we have to take a look at those schedules and see if any of them will be tested in the future. We do kick things off today with Evil Geniuses versus Counter Logic Gaming. Then TSM face off against that surging Dignitas later in the day before FlyQuest get their chance at breaking Cloud9 streak. A reminder that we have a 3-day show now with Monday Night League kicking off at 5 p.m. PST and the Bud Light League Lounge going down shortly after those 2 matches.
So that was Monday night.
Monday night.
So the League of Legends will be played at the night on Monday.
Yeah, that's when it is. Monday, the day after Sunday, and at night.
Bud Light
Before Tuesday.
League Lounge is
Tuesday.
after that.
Yes.
Gotcha.
There it is.
Monday Night League.
Lock it in. We're going to hear from Freak and Kobe about Game 1, but before we do, Wiggly spoke frankly about the team's communication struggles.
No one wants to lose. Like, everyone on our team is really sad about losing, obviously. Like, no one wants to go 0-4. I'm not happy about it, but there's no real point in just being, depressed or, like, looking down on things and, like, being a doomsayer and saying, oh, we can't fix it, we can't do this. Like, for me, I know, like, I kind of know what's going wrong in game. It's just hard for me to help, like, communicate everything. And yeah, I know it can be fixed. It's not something where, oh, like, individually we just don't have what it takes and, like, the other teams are just, like, better. It's always something that we can just fix from practicing together and, like, playing together and communicating more and just focusing on. So I'm never, like, just, like, of course it sucks to lose, but I think all of us are, like, really trying to fix the problem, and we've all been, like, working hard at it. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if CLG can fix those issues. Of course, 0-4 start. Not ideal, but they've got games to play. Looking at this matchup, we have 2 teams who are both struggling after reasonably high expectations coming out of the offseason. Wiggly pointed out, communication seems to be the main crux of CLG's problem.
Yeah, we've actually heard a lot about that. And Wiggly himself has actually come to form in summer, though. I feel like that was a big part of CLG's success that they did have, and they need to reclaim that. Other things that we're looking at, Crown, that LeBlanc game, that was really, really poor from them. It hasn't panned out as people had hoped so far. So they're going to have to step up not only the jungle, but jungle mid synergy, I think, is going to have to come together for them, especially for that mid game.
And of course, meanwhile, their opponents on EG also a bit plagued with a rough start to the season at 1-3.
Yeah, I mean, they do look a bit desynced for Evil Geniuses as well. Both CLG and EG lost to TSM last week, so they both suffered defeat at the same hands. However, on a positive note, we did see improvement from Kumo, specifically from the top lane. A lot of people had doubts about this young guy up there in the top lane, so we hope to see that continue.
Yeah, I mean, EG definitely was in winning distance and striking distance of that TSM game, so we'll see which of these teams shapes up better and who picks up the win. But that's what we're going to be focusing on in Game 1. Until then, Dash, back to you.
Thank you very much, Freak. Thoughts on these two teams? Obviously struggling, 1-3 for EG and 0-4 for CLG.
I mean, CLG is having a terrible start, let's be honest. But that being said, they had a really strong finish to the year overall last year. Crown individually, we have seen be very successful in the LCS. I do not think this is indicative of his overall skill level. I don't buy that Crown just all of a sudden got this bad from where he was. So I do think we are going to see CLG improving as they come together better as a squad, because I still think they have strong individual pieces. They're just not working together well right now.
And Wiggly seems like he can be a bit of a hot or cold player. Spring last year did not look great. To summer was one of their best players. And I think this is a team that is obviously struggling right now, but we've seen how they can turn it around. They did it just last year.
Well, when it comes to the team's struggles, Weldon shared insight on CLG's progress.
Yeah, the season's started pretty rough for us, obviously. I think we've had some hilarious draft differences in some of our games where we picked snowball comps and didn't end up snowballing very early on. And then behind the scenes, I think that whenever you have a shift in engagers, where we have like Ray, who was our primary engage last year, in some of the games on stage, you'll notice that he doesn't have like a primary engage champion. And so there's always going to be this growth in the beginning of the season with synergizing like how it is we fight and when we fight and what it sounds like when we're fighting. And we've been seeing a lot of progress on that, and it hasn't shown on stage, but I'm pretty confident in the team and their growth so far. I feel like with these two teams, there's a lot of overlapping knowledge of how we play. So there's like former teammates or former coaches, and they know our strengths and weaknesses, and we know theirs. And so I think it's going to be one of those friendly boxing matches where we're just going to see who is the person that gets to execute their game plan.
Some thoughts on the obstacles that stand in front of CLG, but the reality is with only 18 games in the regular season, we're going to have to start seeing them overcome some of those obstacles.
And taking a friendly approach to a live or die situation where you should be really fighting tooth and nail for every single win is not giving me as much confidence as I would have liked to hear from the coaching staff of CLG. But I do agree with Azale. I think CLG has been underperforming. There is just no way that this is the roster that was assembled and this is their level of playing. Clearly, something is not clicking for them. And I have faith that they will be able to win a few games. The streak can't get worse.
Strong endorsement there, Crumbs.
I think they might at some point.
Yeah, well, we look for them to maybe sort of kind of
fallen.
pick up one of their wins today in our first game of the day. We're taking a quick break, and as we go, we take a look at Evil Genius's newest series, Icon, which starts following their new top lane. Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, just under 18 minutes away from Game 1 of the day. With the first 2 weeks under our belts, I'd like to see who's crushing the leaderboards for the LCS, so let's get a couple up there on the back wall. Who takes the cake in each of these categories? KDA King Sven.
It makes me immediately think of BDD and that chase for the 100 KDA that he achieved in the LCK last year. I think that was such a historic mark. And it would be really exciting to have someone in the LCS try to chase for that too.
He's halfway there.
It reminds me as a player before, you usually don't know when you have a really high KDA. It's everybody around you telling you, or other teams really trying to kill you. I want to see teams go down to C9. Just try to mess with Sven.
They have to get him twice. He's deathless. You have to kill it. You have to
He doesn't even have a single one. It's got to be 2.
Can't divide by 1.
Yeah.
Right.
You can divide by
you
one. Let's
can,
be very
but you're
clear
not
how math
hurting.
works.
No.
I have a special information. Don't worry, kids at home. You can divide by 1.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
We ran the numbers.
Moving right along. Damage per minute. We find Power of Evil at the top.
Power Evil's on top, and I know we're going to talk more about it. What's interesting is no C9 players in damage per minute, but it's hard to have high damage per minute when you're ending games at 30 minutes and murdering everyone instantly.
Yeah, exactly. You know, teams, this is somewhat skewed towards champions that are high DPM,
Yep.
obviously, but also if you get to a late game stage, you have 6-item builds, you deal tremendously more damage in the team fight.
I also saw a little fun fact that he would be ranked number 2 of the highest DPM in Europe right now. So he's out there doing pretty well. Don't ask me who's number 1. It's a secret.
Okay,
Yeah.
I won't ask. Moving on to the third
no, just
final
divide by
category.
one.
I know. Now
I bet he blurts it out.
I'm like scared to engage Crumbs with anything now.
Yeah.
Total CS 15 to 30 speaks kind of to the allocation of gold for each of these teams, and we find Kabe of TSM is getting the most.
Yeah, I mean, he had that really long Senna game. This is only 15 to 30, but he often ends up in the mid lane collecting a lot of the farm, and I think that's a good game to see if you want like a 60-minute explanation of why he's number 1.
4 ADCs, one top laner.
interesting.
How interesting.
Yeah, I think it is really interesting. It does speak to how Someday plays the game, though. I think he is an incredible laner. He gets advantages, and then he often, instead of taking that to team fight, likes to take that to the side lane, likes to try to extend that advantage. He plays a lot of scaling champions, like when he's playing his GP. He's fantastic in those side lanes, and I think that's where he is most comfortable, and I think that's why we're kind of seeing him as this anomaly.
You know who's notably absent from all three of these leaderboards is Doublelift, right? A guy who has been touted as one of the best in the entirety of the LCS, regardless of the role. Not on any of these leaderboards. My question is more so related to Brox's expected return, or rather arrival to the team. Once he joins, is that roster of 5 capable of skyrocketing Doublelift onto some of these leaderboards, or maybe some of the other TL guys?
I think at the very least, you're going to have him do a lot better because the jungle proximity for Schernfire was so low. I think it was
like
9% before.
Lowest of all time.
Lowest. That has never happened. When Doublelift is on your team, you are camping the bottom lane. So a very outlying kind of synergy with the jungle and Doublelift that I think Brox, as a jungler that really helps lanes, will be there and will.
KDA is where you'll see Doublelift start
leaderboard.
flying up when they go in their massive win streak that I sense is coming.
Ooh, massive win streak. Mark senses is coming. We'll see who can make moves in the LCS leaderboards as we look at our players to watch for Week 3. They are CLG's Crown, FlyQuest's Power of Evil, Cloud9's Blabber, and TSM Broken Blade. Let's start with the 2 mid laners who swap teams, Crown and Power of Evil.
I mean, they've had pretty opposite trajectories at the start of the split. PoE, we saw him at the top of the damage meters. It's Crown actually on the bottom end of that. He is 10th in the league. But I do believe that Crown is still a talented player. As I said earlier, I do think he's going to turn it around, but it's nice to see PoE once again being successful on another squad because he really is a consistent carry from the mid lane. He loves to play that late game style. You know what you're going to get, and he does it well.
And it's clear to me that Crown is just going through growing pains. And this is a very emotional and volatile player. I mean, he wins world championships and is sad inside because he played Malzahar. Because he felt like it wasn't giving it his all. And so clearly when you have these tough losses on CLG, it gets to him. And I think it gets to the entirety of the CLG squad that has rallied around making Crown the crown jewel of the organization.
And we know how good PoE can be. I would love to see if he can stay up there. But for Crown, no one thinks, like we were saying earlier, he's not that bad. Those numbers undersell how good he is. And so we are waiting to see that kind of other side of him. Whereas PoE, this could be him all split if FlyQuest stays good.
Right, and what a way for, FlyQuest to kind of come up in the spring split. Again, we talk about off-season losers, and a lot of people were looking at Dig and FlyQuest saying, I don't really see what moves they made. They're going to catapult them to the top of the standings. Well, he is working real well with the rest of this roster. We can't ignore that Ignar also came in, so it's not all PoE, but wow, this FlyQuest roster really...
They've been looking great, but I mean, another roster that's doing incredible. Obviously, C9, Blabber, a big player to watch. This is a guy that I think people had question marks, him stepping into the shoes of Sven Skaren, the LCS MVP. People talk a lot about Blabber as this coin flip player. He's really aggressive. You never know what you're going to get. But to be fair to the guy, he has the highest win rate of anyone in the LCS.
History.
Yeah, LCS history. And this is, based on 25 plus games. He has a lot of games that he has amassed, and he has a history, a pedigree of winning here.
So then this may be a kind of a strange question, but is it weird or unfair then that, for example, I look at this team and I'm still not convinced, even seeing the 4-0, even seeing the way in which they're smashing a lot of these teams, there's something about the unprovenness of this roster in my head that disallows me from getting on the hype train the way I would have with TL and Spring Split last year.
I think that there's a couple things. One, like you're saying, some of these players feel like rookies, even though Vulcan did play with Piglet in spring, but no one remembers that time. They only remember the Cody Sun days. Same with Blabber having, I think, like 50 games already.
At this point,
Even though he feels like a rookie, Sven coming from TSM, I think I understand why people were hesitant. And they've only smashed. They have 0% time with a major deficit. And one of the things that made C9 so good in summer was that they could come back from games. We haven't seen any diversity of how they win. It's always, well, we just smash you. And sometimes that's enough.
Right.
That was immortal.
If you keep doing that, great. You
yeah.
never have to show us the other way, but the question does remain, if they ever fall behind, can they still navigate themselves to a victory? Finally, we got to talk about TSM Broken Blade for a TSM that has somewhat struggled in the early parts of the split. He more recently has showed up.
Yeah, he had a really good set performance, which a lot of players are having good set performances, so I'm not sure where to throw the credit. Is it too much on
He
set?
did have a good Ornn game too, though.
He did have a really good Ornn as well, and he was one of the players that I thought would be a very strong asset for TSM, which is why he stayed on for the roster for this season. And he seems to be stepping up as a leader within the TSM organization as well, which is really interesting because as we saw, it was only Someday that was playing around top lane with the CS. I think that TSM could play into Broken Blade a little bit more. There are opportunities right now to play the Elise, Gragas, have a magic jungler, physical top laner, and really win a game off of breaking over the top lane.
Eyes on these four for week 3. The start of the season can be exciting, but all that change can also expose your immune system to plenty of tilt. So let's get our checkup as we hear from Dr. Azael and Mark.
Welcome to the LCS General Hospital, the leading name in league diagnoses, treatment, and ridiculously talented doctors.
People do say that.
At the start of the new season, there's always a lot of injuries that can come from being out of practice. Perhaps the most troubling is the outbreak we've seen across the league in the jungle position. Now, see there? That's an abnormality in the frontal lobe.
Yeah, a textbook case of J4 brain. This is a pernicious condition that always seems to rear its ugly head in competitive play. It's most easily identified by players operating under feelings of invincibility and with complete abandon for their own well-being.
Indeed, if you think your favorite team is playing with J4 brain, please encourage them to get draft help immediately.
Yeah, nothing to be ashamed of. A couple rounds of Sejuani should have your jungler brought right back down to earth.
Yes, now to be clear, this should not be confused with C9 Sven syndrome, which actually does make you impossible to kill.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's cheating. No one can touch that.
No one can touch that guy. There is different treatments for those, though they are totally different.
Yeah, totally different things. But one player that has benefited from the offseason is Froggen. He's completely turned his health around. This guy is just about the only person ever to keep his New Year's resolutions, and it's paying off early in 2020.
I definitely didn't.
Yeah, me either. He's been getting out more, exercising, meditating, and he's getting a steady intake of CS with a high-protein diet.
Excuse me, high protein?
No, a pro team. He has good players on his team for a change.
Oh, right, yeah. That will definitely help. Now, unfortunately, it's not all good news for the returning teams. I have something very sad to share with you. After an intensive operation and multiple lane transplants, it appears that CLG's body has rejected its new players. It's with a heavy heart that I have to report the team was dead on arrival for Spring Split.
He did everything he could.
But hey, there's more LCS Downcount coming down right up, so, you know, stick around.
How about that? That's great.
Cloud9 are riding high, but are they going to give you the best bang for your buck, especially with the second-place teams waiting to challenge their hold on first? Well, friends, gather around and let's see if we can make sense of the turbulent tectonic plates that is the LCS stock market together. Now, if you're like my friend Mark over there and have some ground to make up, you might be looking for a riskier horse to get you back in the race. If that's you, take a gander at CounterLogic Gaming. Their price is down thanks to an 0-4 start, and with an easier schedule on the horizon, you might see your portfolio getting a W. Reminder, I did say it was a riskier investment because, well, CounterLogic. I myself tend to preach patience. It's only week 2. No time to go making desperation plays. Instead, I'd be looking at that blonde-haired boogeyman that's going to be haunting the junglers' nightmares. That's right, Brox's time in the Visa penalty box looks to be coming to an end. So this may be your last chance to get in on Team Liquid at its current low price. Wait a minute. Correction, a slightly lower price. All right, mi amigos, that's it. It's always invest wisely, and if you find yourself hitting it big, don't forget your old pal Riv.
Thank you, Riv, and
Yay!
welcome to the LCS stock market. It's been 2 weeks, and a lot has already changed in the landscape. I'm excited to see how both, or rather all 3 of your portfolios have shifted. But first, let's take stock of the teams themselves. We can see we now have a new leader in price. That would be Cloud9, jumping up a whole 78 points. And then down at the bottom, CounterLogic Gaming. Boy, they're a steal right now at 438.
Big losses equals big opportunities.
That's exactly right. So then let's go ahead and see where you guys are throwing your clout. Crumbs, we're going to start with you. Where are you putting your money?
Well, just like
Okay.
let me tell you, opportunity often is the breeding ground of panic. Sorry, that's the wrong
Other way around.
Panic is the breeding ground of opportunity,
There it
and there's
is.
no greater panic than over at the CLG camp right now. I think this team is really staring down the barrel of what could be a disastrous season, which is why they're going to turn it around. They're the cheapest. It's the most gain you can make out of all the teams. Nobody else has 11 teams from the stock
You're buying
market.
a house on fire.
Right. So you walk into a boardroom,
Listen.
you see people losing their minds, and
Yeah.
you're thinking, this is a company I want to invest in.
Exactly.
Like, this
Okay.
is for me.
Everyone's
All right.
getting out.
I
I'm
understand
getting in.
Crumbs as an investor now.
And we know how confident he is when earlier he gave the glowing review of,
By the way,
Hang
hang on. One thing that I have to add
week 9.
to all these
Please,
big
please,
brand
Dad.
play here.
Yeah.
I'm the only one that made money last season. I'm the only one that made
Last
money.
season?
He won.
Last
I
week.
won.
No, last week.
Last week, that's fair. I was like,
Last
we
week.
literally have the stock market
You
champion
both
on the desk
have
right here.
proven to not make money on
We
the
lost.
stock
I
market.
lost like $20.
You lost money.
All right, Azale, he's dragging your name through the mud as our previous.
which would you prefer,
as
1 week
exactly,
or an entire
or a whole
season?
year? Yeah. Based on last year's performances, this man would be managing my money. So, given that, week 3, where are you going?
I'm all in on TL. I think that TL have an incredibly easy strength of schedule. I do think we're going to see them improve. This is a team that early in the season I didn't want to buy because I knew they weren't practicing, they weren't boot camping like some of the other squads. They've got, I believe, Golden Guardians, Immortals, CLG, and the 100 Thieves, right? This is one of the easiest possible strength of schedules you could ever have for a team that is slightly undervalued because of their slow start. I think this is a sure thing.
You know what? You're making so much sense, Azael. I'm gonna do the exact same thing as you. I
I thought you were going to say, you're making so much
No.
sense, I'm going to make dollars. I got excited for that,
No
and then you
puns.
didn't do
Go
it.
talk to Freak. I just bought the same thing as him. They'll never be cheaper. They will never go below 600 again, I'm pretty sure, for the rest of the season. Team
You're not
Liquid,
gonna make that much.
it doesn't matter. I'm going to make some.
Wins are wins.
You're going to lose everything.
Again, you definitely have potential there, Crumbs. I think a lot of us are just worried you won't realize that potential. Before we hand things off to the casters, let's take a look at your predictions for the day. Get those in the books and see how the prediction game is shaking out. First game of the day. Crumbs, of course, going for CL.
He has to believe in himself.
Doubling down there.
Crumbs is the
different.
aberration here.
Well,
Wow,
so I will
actually,
say,
Yeah, wait a minute. What's wrong with you guys?
no, game 1 you're trolling. Game 3 and game 4 I think are
Hang on.
actually legitimately close.
So why do you guys both have,
Trolling?
wait, yeah, hold up. Why do you both have faith in TSM over a hot Dignitas right now?
Yeah.
I do think that we saw big improvements from TSM from week 1 to week 2. I even think in game 2 of week 1 in their loss to TL, I think given that situation, they beat any other team in the league. TL was very composed. So I think the trajectory of TSM is very positive. And I saw some very concerning things last week, in the loss from Dignitas.
And then I got to come to you for the FlyQuest prediction over C9. You're calling the first loss of the split comes from the FlyQuest?
Yeah, so I'll give you my true reasons here.
Yeah, please, don't give me your fake ones.
I really like what I saw from FlyQuest's engages last week, particularly in their match against Dignitas. The synergy and decisiveness with which Santorin would engage and willingly give up his life and everybody else was following up was something that I had not seen in FlyQuest for a while. That kind of decisiveness is the thing that will beat teams like Cloud9. So I have faith that if they can give us that and not the Mordekaiser top, we're going to have the first loss for Cloud9.
I really like their top side of the map if it's playing well. PoE has shown the rumble so far, and I want to see what they try and answer with because that's what took apart Dignitas was PoE's champ pool, I think, and I want to see if Niski can match that.
And I mean, I do think FlyQuest is looking good. I think both those last two games, it's reasonable to predict both sides. But, if a decisive team is the reason you're going to actually predict a squad, I think it should be going to C9 because they are the most decisive team in the league. They have the fastest game time, faster than the league-wide average by over 5 minutes. This team is dominating because they're so damn decisive.
What I didn't like about Cloud9 is that I think their schedule has been easier than Dignitas up to now, with the exception of Team Liquid, but that was a day 1 Team Liquid.
Well, Mark, you had posed the question, what happens if C9 gets put behind? We'll see if FlyQuest can put them in that position today to answer the question. With that, though, we're tossing it out to the battle arena to get into our first game of the day.
Thank you very much, Dash. Welcome to the next week of the LCS as evil geniuses encounter Logic Gaming do battle. I am